I'm getting to know the Detroit scene, the theater scene, the visual art scene, which is so strong, and of course the music scene. And one of my real aspirations for Detroit opera is that it is seen as part of the musical heritage. I'm thinking, of course, of Motown naturally, but I also think about techno and house music and all of the amazing influences that have started right here in Detroit and have changed culture nationally and internationally. I would love for people in Detroit to think of great works from the past, but also works that are emanating from Detroit as part of that heritage. During the pandemic, the people at Detroit Opera asked me to take on the role of artistic director because I think that they recognized that there's still a lot of potential in opera in contemporary society. How can we change? How can we adapt? How can we create more space for more people to flourish more? And I think that is something that kind of attitude is something that I think I'm practicing when I do operas in this way, is helping people realize just because it's always been done this way, we can always question it and think about it from another perspective. It's been really cool to get to know the artists that make up Detroit, get to know more, get to see more of Detroit at its most lively, and that's been really exciting for me. And I hope that in the intervening years I'll continue to be able to see the communities pour into the Detroit Opera House and really make opera a part of their life. A big part of inspiration for me comes from listening to others. Either other collaborators or also what I've been doing since being artistic director of the Detroit Opera is listening to a community, listening to a city, trying to feel what's in the rhythm of this city and thinking about how that can inspire me to want to create something really specific for this particular community. And so that's a much less mystical version of creativity, but I think equally important. And I think both are really essential if you want to be an artist that feels inspired by creativity. Art's really interesting because it needs both the big vision, the dream, the thing that doesn't exist in the world yet, and it also needs the real steps to bringing it to life. And there's this kind of in-between space between those two. You know, there's the space where you still need the vision and the inspiration, but you also need to really have the discipline to stick to that vision and bring it to life. And somewhere in the middle, it may not be exactly what you imagine, but ideally it is something that does shift reality and change reality. Detroit has such a unique perspective on what it means to be an artist. The connection to entrepreneurship feels really close. I think you see a lot of artists that know that they don't have that same kind of wealth of resources to pull from that you might see in cities like New York or Los Angeles. But the artists that have made Detroit home and have really made an incredible impact on both Detroit and on American culture have done so with a real sense of kind of grit, determination, and a real feeling of resourcefulness. And also, what I've noticed is a lot of coming together of artists from different disciplines and supporting each other and realizing we're kind of all in this together. And I love that because I feel like opera actually has a little bit of that baked into what it is, because opera is ultimately a very collaborative art form. It's an art form in which, you know, singers, musicians, instrumentalists, I should say, designers, people from all different artistic walks of life come together to create one piece together. And so I think there's something really kind of harmonious about thinking about opera in Detroit along those lines.